In 2021, researchers published a study in a peer-reviewed journal. They gave mice a lethal dose of radiation, 7.5 gray, enough to destroy bone marrow, enough to kill. The untreated group, 32% survived. The group given an extract from a common garden herb, 89% survived. The p-value was 0.0008. That is not a maybe. That is not a trend. That is statistical certainty. The herb costs $1 at any garden center. You have probably walked past it 1,000 times. You may have it in your kitchen right now. The only FDA-approved radioprotective drug in existence costs $480 per intravenous dose. It requires a hospital. It requires a trained medical team to administer it. And 41% of patients who start it have to stop because the side effects are so severe. A $1 plant nearly tripled survival rates in a controlled study compared to untreated animals. A $480 drug was largely abandoned by the doctors it was designed for. By the end of this video, you will know the compound. You will know the science behind how it works inside your cells. You will know how to grow it and extract it yourself. And you will understand exactly why no government agency has ever told you about it. Welcome to this channel. We exist for one reason: to surface peer-reviewed, published science that has no marketing budget, no lobbyist, no pharmaceutical sales team. The studies you are about to hear are indexed on PubMed. They are published in journals you can verify in 15 seconds. Or if you believe that kind of information should reach more people, subscribe. You are joining a community that reads the papers the evening news will never cover. To understand why you have never heard this, we have to go back to 1945. August 6th, Hiroshima. August 9th, Nagasaki. In the span of 72 hours, the world learned what radiation could do to a human body. Not in theory, not in equations on a chalkboard. In flesh, in bone marrow, in the slow, agonizing death of acute radiation syndrome. Both superpowers understood immediately. The next war would be nuclear, and the nation that could protect its soldiers from radiation would win it. So both launched classified programs. Same problem, same urgency, radically different approaches. In Moscow, a pharmacologist named Nikolai Lazarev began what would become the Soviet adaptogen program. His premise was simple but radical for Western science. Plants that had survived extreme environments for millions of years had already solved the problem of cellular stress. Evolution had done the research. He just needed to find the right species and extract the right compounds. Lazarev coined the term adaptogen in 1947 to describe substances that increase resistance to a broad range of harmful factors. His student, Israel Brekhman, expanded the program dramatically. They screened nearly 200 herbal compounds. They tested them on soldiers, on athletes, on cosmonauts, and they classified the results as top military secrets. For decades, this research existed only behind the Iron Curtain. Meanwhile, in Washington, the United States Army took the opposite path. Walter Reed, Army Institute of Research, launched the Anti-Radiation Drug Development Program. Their approach was purely synthetic, chemistry, not botany. Over the following decades, they screened 4,400 synthetic compounds. 4,400. They tested each one for radioprotective capability. And after years of work and millions of dollars, they selected one, WR-2721, a synthetic aminothiol. It would eventually be called Amifostine. It would eventually be sold under the brand name ethiol. Two empires, same existential problem. One looked to the forest, the other looked to the laboratory. Here is where the story gets interesting. In the 1990s, a researcher named Zakir Ramazanov left the former Soviet Union. He brought with him classified documents from the adaptogen program. Working later with Dr. Patricia Gerbarg at New York Medical College, elements of the Soviet research began to surface in Western literature for the first time. What they revealed was remarkable. The Soviets had identified specific plant compounds that demonstrated radioprotective effects in human subjects. Compounds from the Lamiaceae family, the mint family, the family that includes one of the most common herbs on Earth, rosemary. The compound is rosmarinic acid, a polyphenolic ester found in high concentrations in rosemary, as well as in lemon balm, sage, and perilla. The Soviets knew about it. They classified what they knew. The Americans never looked because they were busy synthesizing 4,400 chemicals in a laboratory, searching for something they could patent and control. One path led to a $1 plant available in every garden center on the planet. The other led to a $480 drug that most oncologists eventually stopped using. But does the science actually hold up? Let us look at exactly what this compound does inside your cells. Now, this video covers one compound from one plant family. This is the surface. In the vault, we maintain a complete research library spanning dozens of compounds, dozens of plant families, and the full spectrum of preparedness science. Extraction protocols, dosing frameworks, shelf life data, storage methods. No fluff, no filler, Just the research, organized and actionable. The link is in the description. But everything you need to act on this specific compound is right here in this video. Stay with me. Let us talk about what radiation actually does to your body. Because it is not what most people think. Radiation itself is not what kills you, not directly. When ionizing radiation hits your tissue, it slams into water molecules inside your cells. Your body is roughly 60% water. That collision splits water molecules apart and creates what are called free radicals, specifically hydroxyl radicals. These are molecules with an unpaired electron. They are wildly unstable. They are chemically desperate to react with something, and they tear through your DNA, your cell membranes, and your proteins like shrapnel. This is what actually kills radiation victims. Not the radiation beam itself, the chemical chaos it creates inside. Rosmarinic acid is a free radical scavenger. Its molecular structure contains multiple hydroxyl groups arranged in a configuration that allows it to donate electrons to those unstable radicals and neutralize them. It soaks them up. It disarms them before they reach your DNA. This is not fringe theory. This is basic redox chemistry confirmed in study after study. But it does not stop there. Your body has its own internal antioxidant defense system. Enzymes called superoxide dismutase, known as SOD catalysts, and the glutathione system. These are your built-in radiation shields. Under normal conditions, they handle everyday oxidative stress. Under radiation exposure, they get overwhelmed. They cannot keep up. Rosmarinic acid has been shown to upregulate these enzyme systems. It boosts your body's own defenses. It does not just fight the free radicals directly. It calls in reinforcements. So the next layer, DNA protection. Researchers used what is called the micronucleus test. This is a standard genotoxicity assay. When radiation damages DNA, cells form small extranuclei called micronuclei during division. They are visible under a microscope. They are a direct countable measure of genetic damage. In the Radioprotection study, rosmarinic acid significantly reduced micronucleus formation. It was protecting the genetic material itself. The protection factor was 58%. The dose reduction factor was 7.2. Published, peer-reviewed, quantified. Now here is the layer that matters most for survival: bone marrow. When people die from acute radiation syndrome, the cause of death is usually hematopoietic failure. Your bone marrow is where your blood cells are made. White blood cells, red blood cells, platelets. Radiation destroys bone marrow faster than almost any other tissue because those cells divide rapidly, and rapidly dividing cells are the most vulnerable. Without white blood cells, you cannot fight infection. Without platelets, you bleed internally. This is what killed the firemen at Chernobyl. This is what killed the victims at Hiroshima. Rosmarinic acid demonstrated hematopoietic protection in the animal studies. The treated mice maintained bone marrow function at levels the untreated mice could not. That is why they survived. Not because the radiation did not reach them, it did, but because their blood-forming system kept working. And now the result that no one in the pharmaceutical industry wants to talk about. In a study published in Anti-Cancer Agents in Medicinal Chemistry, researchers tested rosmarinic acid on PNT2 cells. These are normal, healthy human prostate cells. When exposed to radiation, rosmarinic acid reduced cell death by 29.1%, p-value less than 0.001. It protected healthy tissue. Then they tested it on melanoma cells exposed to radiation. The same compound, same conditions. It increased cancer cell death by 42%, p-value less than 0.001, enhancement ratio of 2.36. Let that settle for a moment. The same compound that protects your healthy cells makes cancer cells more vulnerable to radiation treatment. This is called selective radioprotection. And no synthetic drug in existence has ever demonstrated this dual behavior. Not Amifostine. Not any of the 4,400 compounds Walter Reed screened. Nothing in the pharmaceutical pipeline does both. A $1 garden herb does what no pharmaceutical has achieved. So if the science is this strong, why does the pharmaceutical alternative cost 480 times more? And why has no one told you? The answer is not a conspiracy. It is something worse. It is a structure. Amifostine was synthesized in the 1950s, specifically for nuclear war. That was its purpose. Protect American soldiers from Soviet warheads. It took 40 years to reach FDA approval. 40 years. It was not approved until 1995. And here is the bitter irony. It was not approved for its original purpose, not for nuclear attack, not for whole body radioprotection. It was approved only for reducing side effects from cancer radiation therapy, specifically xerostomia, dry mouth. The drug the United States military spent decades developing to survive nuclear war was ultimately approved to treat dry mouth in cancer patients. And then it mostly failed at that too. 41% of patients discontinued the drug due to adverse effects, severe nausea, dangerous drops in blood pressure. vomiting so intense that oncologists stopped prescribing it. And then intensity-modulated radiation therapy, known as IMRT, arrived and made amifostine largely unnecessary, even for cancer treatment. The technology solved the problem the drug could not. Today, a single dose of amifostine costs approximately $480 in the United States. In Europe, a treatment course runs approximately €6,495. It requires intravenous administration in a clinical setting. Now ask the obvious question. Why has rosmarinic acid never been put through FDA human clinical trials? The answer is economics, not corruption, not a shadowy cabal, economics. The FDA approval process costs an estimated $200 million or more, sometimes much more. No pharmaceutical company will invest $200 million in a compound that cannot be patented. And you cannot patent a plant. You cannot patent rosemary. You cannot patent rosmarinic acid. It occurs in nature. It has been used for millennia. There is no intellectual property to protect. There is no return on investment. There is no recurring revenue model. So the studies sit on PubMed, published, peer-reviewed, statistically significant, and no one with the resources to advance them to human trials has any financial reason to do so. This leaves a gap in public preparedness that is staggering when you think about it clearly. There is no FDA-approved whole-body radioprotector available to civilians. None. Potassium iodide protects your thyroid gland, only your thyroid gland. It does nothing for your bone marrow, nothing for your DNA, nothing for the 60% of your body that is water being split into free radicals. The government's official guidance for nuclear preparedness is shelter, distance, and time. That is it. That is all they offer. If you think peer-reviewed science should reach more people than pharmaceutical marketing budgets allow, share this video. Hit subscribe. This information does not promote itself. People like you are the only distribution channel it has. Now stay with me, because what comes next is the part most creators would skip. And it is the part that matters most for your trust in everything I have told you so far. Here's what I will not tell you. I will not tell you this is a guaranteed cure. I will not tell you that taking rosemary tea will make you radiation-proof. That would be a lie, and you deserve better than that. The survival data comes from animal studies, mice, not humans. Animal models are the foundation of pharmacological research. Nearly every drug you have ever taken was first tested on animals. But animal results do not automatically translate to human outcomes at the same dosages or the same magnitudes. The dosing is uncertain across species. 200 milligrams per kilogram in a mouse does not mean 200 milligrams per kilogram in a human. Allometric scaling is complex. We do not have human dosing data because no one has funded human trials. There's a limitation called the bystander effect. Cells that are not directly hit by radiation can still be damaged by signals from neighboring damaged cells. Rosmarinic acid's effectiveness against this secondary mechanism is not fully established. Timing matters enormously. In the mouse study, the animals were given rosmarinic acid for 3 consecutive days before radiation exposure. This was preloading. Taking it after exposure is a completely different scenario and may not produce the same results. Rosemary can interact with certain medications, including blood thinners and blood pressure drugs. If you are on prescription medication, consult your doctor. And this is not a substitute for the basics. Shelter, distance from the source, and minimizing exposure time remain your primary defenses. What I am telling you is that a published peer-reviewed body of evidence suggests a significant supplemental layer of protection that costs almost nothing, grows in your garden, and has thousands of years of documented safe human use. That is not a miracle claim. That is a reasonable evidence-based position. Now here is how you act on it. Rosemary grows in USDA hardiness zones 7 through 10 with no protection needed. Full sun, well-drained soil. It is drought tolerant once established. It practically wants to be neglected. If you are in zones 5 or 6, grow the cold hardy cultivars. 2 names to remember, ARP and hill hardy. These have been documented surviving temperatures down to minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The RP variety was discovered in 1998 in Athens, Texas by Madeline Hill and has become the gold standard for cold climate rosemary. If you are in zones 3 or 4, grow rosemary in containers. Bring them indoors when nighttime temperatures drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. A south-facing window provides sufficient light through winter. A starter plant costs $1 to $5 at any nursery, garden center, or home improvement store. 1 plant provides years of continuous harvest. Now, extraction. 3 methods. Choose based on your situation. Method 1, simple tea infusion. Take 1 tablespoon of fresh rosemary or 1 teaspoon of dried rosemary. Pour 8 ounces of boiling water over it. Steep for 10 to 15 minutes. Strain and drink. This is the simplest daily method. It extracts rosmarinic acid into the water through basic heat dissolution. Method 2, concentrated decoction. Place 2 tablespoons of fresh rosemary in 12 ounces of water. Bring to a boil, then reduce heat and simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. This prolonged heating extracts a higher concentration of rosmarinic acid than a simple steep. Strain while hot. Allow to cool. Drink within 24 hours or refrigerate for up to 3 days. Method 3. Alcohol tincture. This is the prepper's method. This is the one that lasts. Pack a clean glass jar loosely with fresh rosemary. Pour 80 proof vodka over the herb until fully submerged. Seal tightly. Store in a cool, dark location. Shake the jar once daily. After 4 to 6 weeks, strain through cheesecloth into dark glass dropper bottles. A properly made tincture has a shelf life measured in years, not days. In a collapsed infrastructure scenario where hospitals do not exist and pharmacies are empty, your tincture is still on the shelf. Your garden is still growing. Let us do the financial comparison one final time. One rosemary plant, $1 to $5, provides an indefinite self-renewing supply, self-administered. No medical training required. Thousands of years of documented safe human consumption. Amifostine, $480 per single dose. Requires intravenous administration. Requires a hospital setting. Requires a trained medical professional. 41% discontinuation rate due to side effects. Largely abandoned by the oncologists, it was designed to serve. Here is what happened. A PubMed-indexed compound from a $1 garden herb nearly tripled mammalian survival from a lethal radiation dose in controlled, peer-reviewed studies. The statistical significance was overwhelming. P-value of 0.0008. The only pharmaceutical alternative took 40 years to develop. Costs 480 times more per dose. Requires a hospital to administer. And has been largely abandoned by the medical community. The Soviet Union knew about plant-based radioprotection and classified it. The United States spent decades synthesizing chemicals and ignoring what was growing in the ground. When the Cold War ended and the research began to surface, no pharmaceutical company picked it up. Because you cannot patent a plant. All because there is no quarterly earnings call where a CEO announces record profits from rosemary. The studies are published. They are sitting on PubMed right now. You can look them up tonight. The plant is legal. It is available. It is growing in grocery store herb sections as you watch this. The compound demonstrates free radical scavenging, antioxidant enzyme upregulation, DNA protection, hematopoietic preservation, and selective radioprotection that no synthetic drug has ever matched. And almost no one knows. I need to be clear one final time. This is supplemental protection. It is not a magic shield. The animal data is strong, but it is animal data. Shelter, distance, and time are still your first line of defense. But in a world where your government offers you nothing for whole-body radioprotection beyond potassium iodide for your thyroid and a pamphlet telling you to close the windows, supplemental might be everything. Grow the plant, make the extract, store the tincture, know the science, know its limits, and share this video with someone you want to protect, because this information has no advertising budget, it has no sales force, it has no lobbyist walking the halls of Congress. The only way it reaches the next person is if you send it to them. In the next video, we go deeper into the vault. Another compound, another buried study, another question the evening news will never ask. Subscribe so you do not miss it. The research is published. The plant is $1. Now you know.